Hi everyone and welcome to your latest planning outlook, updated on Friday the 7th of February. I've got some pretty brutal conditions on the way for this weekend and even onwards well into next week as some very powerful Atlantic winds move towards us. Very cold conditions developing as well, some of the coldest air that we'll have seen during this winter so far. Its origins coming off Greenland and northern Canada, so some accumulating snow, a lot of blowing snow around as well in those strong winds, and the week as a whole is looking cold. Let's take you through the temperature sequence then according to the 850 millibar chart, which is down to even as low as 1,000 metres or so in the days ahead, with some very low pressure systems in charge. Starting off chilly then on Saturday, freezing levels are well down at 600 to 800 metres or below for a time. We'll tend to lift particularly across England and Wales, but will stay down across Scotland, which means the precipitation coming in there will fall widely as snow on Saturday evening and night. Brief lift of freezing level within a warm sector of a deep low that comes in, that's Storm Ciara into Sunday, and then a marked drop of freezing level once again as a cold front passes southeastwards, and then the very cold Atlantic air moves into the start of next week. This is looking at temperatures at between around 11 and 1200 metres, and this chart suggesting -5 or 6 at that level. So you're looking at a freezing level of around 300 to 500 metres, and when the showers are coming down, well, the snow and the hail will fall and lie very much to sea level. On the coastal slopes, maybe just very temporary, but across many of the mountains that will be accumulating, blowing around, as I said, with all the strong winds, so some substantial drifts, some places where the snow has hardly really accumulated at all, so some real variations. A possible lift of temperature just developing later in the week. It just depends exactly where the next sequence of low pressure systems goes. I would suggest we get to the end of the week though, and the mountain terrain is staying very much frozen. Now the snow depth chart makes interesting viewing. This is through any individual 6-hour time frame, so it's the sort of ongoing accumulation, if you like. This running through the weekend. You see how things are building up during Saturday across the Northwest Highlands, increasingly so Saturday night into Sunday. Let's run a little bit more quickly into next week, this Monday into Tuesday. You can see the extensive lying snow across the Highlands, focused on western areas, but all the way eastwards as well, with those showers rattling through as we're due to see, and showing up accumulations for the lakes, the Pennines, and across Wales as well. Even later in the week, that situation is still very much there, Wednesday, Thursday into Friday, and well, we'll see about that going across the south of England. That will really depend on the weather pattern that's in play by then, but it's safe to say that the Highlands at least are pretty much plastered under snow. Here's your charts for the days ahead, and Saturday sees a bit of a gap in between weather systems, but it's still a severe day with severe gales deteriorating into storm force winds across the mountains, hurricane force by the end of the afternoon across Scotland, and increasingly into Snowdonia and the Lake District as well on the highest tops. One front with some snow and some hail showers fading out in the morning across eastern regions. The next front coming in from the west will set in for that widespread snow, arriving soonest in the afternoon across the far west of Scotland. It's a real tangle of fronts, and the absolute detail of the meteorology might be more complicated than this chart would suggest, but the basic idea is a deep low passing to the north of Scotland. It's central pressure in the 940s millibars just to the north of Scotland, widespread severe gales then from low levels upwards, storm force, hurricane force winds widely across the mountains. You'll be looking at gusts pretty widely on the high tops from Wales to northern England to Scotland in the range 80 to 100 miles per hour, and may even gust stronger than that for periods on the high tops. If that isn't enough to put you off, it's a day of pretty relentless precipitation as well. Heavy torrential rain within the warm sector across England and Wales, rain for a time to higher slopes in Scotland, then all going back to snow again as freezing levels begin to drop, and even that pretty constant through the day, and again blowing around, giving almost persistent whiteout across the Highlands. Now the centre of that storm system does move away, but it stays with a very strong westerly flow into the start of the new week, and a very unstable polar maritime air mass that's coming in off the Atlantic will just have shower after shower after shower rattling in to western mountains. Pretty much constant snow and hail then across western Scotland and across western hills of England and Wales for that matter as well. The showers will all pile their way eastwards, fewest of them toward the eastern side of the Highlands and the Pennines, but you'll still get a few coming through. And within that shower stream, there'll be some with some hail and some thunder mixed in as well. So Another very poor day. It's wind speeds at severe gale force across most of the mountains. Very squally gusts coming through in those showers at 70 to 80 miles per hour or more. Can we find anything better? Well, not really. Tuesday, a very similar sort of day. Absolute detail of the most intense frequent showers open to a bit of question, but it's broadly that same story of a westerly at gale or severe gale force and snow and hail coming in from the west very frequently, if not constantly again, to western Scotland. There may be slight changes into the middle of the week, just a brief ridge of higher pressure trying to show itself around Wednesday. Still showers again of snow and hail coming into western hills, and just watch then out to the Atlantic for the next potential area of low pressure. Now that one eventually may well track further southwards across more central parts of the British Isles. If it does so, it will lessen the wind for a time, particularly across Scotland. It may take the gales further south. But it will keep the cold air wrapped around it, so any of the precipitation coming in may well fall extensively across the northern half of Britain as snow to quite low levels. So in the second half of the week, some more substantial snowfalls are a potential. At this stage, we're not going to know the exact detail of what that low itself does or where it tracks, but this is the rough situation then around the end of the week. That low is around, and thinking about next weekend, the indication is that higher pressure to the south just builds a little bit, lower pressure gets pushed a bit further north again, and we may just start to see a lift of freezing level as the wind tips a bit more to the southwest. So by next weekend, I suspect temperatures are just that little bit higher. One or two model indications are slower with that change, so there's a chance that we might still hang on to cold air, and probably the higher Scottish mountains still staying sub-zero even if we do lift those temperatures, particularly say further south. I think the ongoing story, although it's complicated, is one of freeze and thaw cycles. This model chart is really just averaging out a general westerly, but as we've seen in recent weeks, there'll be pushes of some milder air, but I think there'll still be a few pushes of colder northwesterly conditions in there at times beyond the middle of the month. So we'll keep an eye on those details further ahead, but in the short term, some very severe conditions on the mountains not to be messed with in these next few days. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.